Premier. Speaker, despite her minister's assertions, it is the Premier's inaction that prolonged this strike for 5 weeks. Last night, she told students who were angry that she did not get involved sooner that she was acting on advice that she was given. Well, I'm not sure where the Premier gets her advice, but sections 4 and 5 of the Colleges of Applied Arts and Technology Act give the Premier every right to involve herself in college business if it's in the public interest. Maybe the Premier can tell us, what was it about a 5-week strike coming to a fair resolution that wasn't in the public interest?
Advanced Education and Skills Development.
Minister of Advanced Education and Skills Development.
Well, Speaker, it's interesting that the NDP is continuing to refer to that section of legislation. What they have failed to understand is there is another piece of legislation, Speaker, that overrides that does not allow government to interfere with the collective bargaining process.
Finish, please.
So, Speaker, once it became clear that the parties could not reach an agreement, that they were at a deadlock, Speaker, we did commit to act. We used every opportunity to quickly pass legislation that would get students back in the classroom. But the NDP blocked it every single time they had the opportunity. On Thursday, we sought unanimous consent to introduce legislation. That was denied by the NDP. On Friday, we introduced legislation and then required unanimous consent to debate the legislation the same day. Again, the NDP blocked the motion over and over. They repeatedly.
Thank you. Supplementary.
Speaker, the Premier also told students last night that she will be looking into whether or not she had the authority to intervene earlier. Let me spell this out for the Premier. Section 4 of the Colleges of Applied Arts and Technology Act allows the Minister to make binding directives to Ontario colleges as to how they conduct their affairs. Section 5 of the Act allows the Minister to intervene in the affairs of colleges if it's deemed to be in the public interest. I find it hard to believe that neither the Premier nor her minister knew that they had this authority. Why didn't the Premier exercise her legislative authority and direct the colleges not to force a contract vote that everyone knew they would lose, unnecessarily prolonging this strike for as much as 2 weeks?
Thank you. Be seated, please. Be seated, please. Thank you. Minister.
Well, Speaker, as I said earlier, there is overriding legislation. We have very solid legal advice, Speaker, that the order would have been challenged had we moved to back-to-work legislation too early. But let's be really clear what this is all about. The NDP are hearing from people that they are not happy that the NDP blocked the legislation, and they are
Finish, please.
So, Speaker, I will finish up by saying that the College Collective Bargaining Act does not equal the College of Applied Arts and Technology Act. Speaker, there are 2 pieces of legislation. The NDP should be aware of that, and they should understand we've pushed it as hard as we could.
Thank you. Supplementary.
Speaker, last night at the Premier's Town Hall, students were upset. Some were in tears as they described the effect that this 5-week strike has had on their learning. Instead of comforting these students, the Premier defended her decision not to intervene. She said, "I had an understanding of what my authority was, and I..."
Stop the clock. Member from Trinity Spadina is warned. You may finish.
She said she had an understanding of what my authority was, and I acted in good faith on that. Speaker, these are empty words for a young person in tears trying to figure out how to recover from 5 weeks of uncertainty. Again, Speaker, I ask, why did the Premier not use her legislative authority to order the colleges to reduce the number of precariously employed faculty early in negotiations, thereby removing one of the most significant issues that led to the strike in the first place?
Well, Speaker, I can tell you that no premier ever in the history of this province has cared more about students than our Premier Catherine Wynne, Speaker. It is thanks to this Premier that one-half of college students have free tuition, Speaker. 210,000 students can say thank you to this Premier for ensuring they have free tuition, Speaker. We are committed to students. We are committed to equity of access to post-secondary education for people across the province, Speaker. We have 50,000 more students applying for OSAP this year than last year, thanks to this Premier and her concern for students.